Hello, and you're all very welcome along to the latest Champ.ie podcast, Ireland's premier horse racing podcast in association with Boylesports, Goran Park, EJ Menswear, Shamrock Thoroughbreds, Midland Travel and McCafferty's traditional Irish bars.
They're coming to the final fence in the 25 Govs Tie Stake. Nick Rocket lands in the lead from Velvet Elvis, gone well clear of Favori de Shondu and Bushman's Pass. They're well strung out. Nick Rocket on the stand side for win number 10 in the race for Willie Mullins.
Enter our Champ.ie headline competition in association with Midland Travel, where you could win a trip for two to the Cheltenham Festival 2026. For a chance to win, simply subscribe to the Champ.ie podcast on YouTube if you haven't already, and scan the QR code to enter your competition details today. We look forward to discussing your weekly #5cast selections in the comment section below.
Yes, and we're on the road to Cheltenham again with this time the turn of a man who rode two Cheltenham Festival winners, has a big connection with Seven Barrows, and now in the bloodstock world. Jerry McGrath, welcome to the show, episode 8 of the Road to Cheltenham Challenge.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah, good to be here and looking forward to it.
Nicky, obviously, is a big team heading to the festival. We're 4 weeks out. We're going to talk about Lulamba, Django Bay, some of the horses that you played a part in, I suppose, purchasing, Jerry. But take us back. Two Cheltenham Festival winners, Un Artiste and Beware the Bear. Two fantastic days in the saddle.
Yeah, they were, and there was a big gap in between them as well. I can't remember the years exactly, but I was a £5 claimer when I won on Un Artiste in the Fred Winter for Simon Muneer and Isaac Swade. It was one of those. Obviously, it was a handicap hurdle, and I claimed 5, so it was kind of that's why I picked up the ride realistically, and it was a brilliant day. And I suppose back then I kind of thought, this is going to happen every year for the next how many every years. And I think it was probably about 6 or 7 years between first winner and second winner at the festival, which was on Beware the Bear in the Ultimate Chase, which is a brilliant day. Very loyal owners, incredibly good people, and real national hunt enthusiasts. They only had 1 or 2 horses in training every year, and great people. And yeah, great. Like I said, it's when whether you're even a punter, an owner, a jockey, a trainer, Cheltenham in March is kind of where you want to be. It is the ultimate test of horses, and it is a brilliant few weeks in the Cotswolds in the middle of March.
We might discuss the hurling later on in the show. Of course, you're a proud Cork man, and just based outside Bishopstown, County Cork originally, but you've made a life for yourself in Lambourn, and I suppose that association with Nicky Henderson over the years, I mean, to be associated with one of the biggest yards both sides of the Irish Sea, I mean, that must be absolutely massive and fun now leading up to Cheltenham, as you say. All roads lead to the Cotswolds.
Yeah, very much so. I suppose when I was riding, it was always great to be associated with a big yard. It was always an easy selling point from your agent's point of view, which is always a good thing. You're always sitting on very nice horses every morning, and even when I was riding, I was always fascinated by bloodstock. And, when new horses or new recruits used to come into the yard, I was always very intrigued about where they came from, what their pedigrees were like, and, who even owned them, So I was always fascinated that side of things. It wasn't just the riding of the horses. I was always kind of probably looking at the bigger picture as well,
How have you found, I suppose, life after riding and the bloodstock side of things that you've been involved in, some of the stars at Seven Barrows?
Yeah, I suppose I was very lucky, really. Well, like I said, while I was riding, I probably had a very good good idea that I wanted to go down to the bloodstock route. And I was very lucky. I kind of learnt my trade while I was still riding with high flyer bloodstock. David Minton was very, very good to me. He taught me an awful lot, which was brilliant. And like I said, I kind of coincided that with the riding while I was still riding, and kind of like I said earlier, just really kind of thought that was the avenue I was going to go down. And obviously I got injured and kind of had to retire. So it just kind of, I always kind of say it kind of fast forwarded my career probably 5 years. And sometimes things happen for a reason. And sorry, my phone just on there. When I did retire, obviously there was a bit of an opening to start buying some horses for Nicky. So, like I said, sometimes things happen for a reason, and I've kind of hopefully taken it with both hands.
Yeah, so this show proudly in association with Goran Park, Boylesports, EJ Menswear, Shamrock Thoroughbreds, McCafferty's traditional Irish bars, Midland Travel, who are going to be bringing all the Irish, of course, over to the Cheltenham Festival, and Loaded as well. A big thank you for partnering with us on social media and sponsoring our social media clips. Jerry, as we always do on the show, we're going to be looking at some of the big performances over the weekend. We're going to get a tracker horse from yourself. We'll get some insight into some of those team members representing 7 Barrows, and a little bit of insight into the bloodstock side of things as well. The Supreme Novices Hurdles are race in focus, and selections for the Cheltenham Festival at the end. But Jerry, I suppose this weekend, looking at some of the star ratings, Lulamba first and foremost, the horse that you've played a part in, I believe, in the sales ring. And this horse obviously gone on to big things on the track, and a good performance at the weekend.
Yeah, very much so. He is very much a baby. He's a work in progress, and he needed to run on Saturday at Newbury. It was a big decision to run him on that ground, because he's a very easy actioned horse. He's a light framed horse. We always kind of thought he'd be a better horse on better ground. Obviously, the ground came up heavy at Newbury on Saturday, and we obviously decided to run him. And it was like, thankfully, he won. His class came through. He's a very exciting horse going forward. He was just touched off in the Triumph Hurdle last year by a very highly rated flat horse. But yeah, like I said, all roads lead to Cheltenham. He'll line up in the Arkle, and I kind of get the impression he's the type of horse now that he's a 2 mile over fences this year, but he's probably a horse that'll probably step up in trip going forward, you know.
His jumping at the weekend, I suppose first time obviously in open company, had only the 2 starts over fences heading into to Newbury at the weekend against his, I suppose, his elders, if you like. But what about the 5-year-old record in the Arkle itself? And what about people talking about his jumping? Does his jumping maybe need to brush up a little bit for the Arkle, do you think?
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. But like you said, these horses are novices. They're novice season. That's the whole point of it. They'll keep improving. None of the horses that line up in the Arkle are going to be the finished article. Any horse that line up in the Gold Cup are still not the finished article. You know, it's the whole, like, people are very quick to crab horses, and the good ones people always kind of try pick holes in. But that's, like I said, we're happy to do that, because like anything, you know, horses, there's always room for improvement. His jumping will need to sharpen up a bit, but I just think on better ground we'll see a different horse. He, like you said, even, I know it's easy to say it now, but the minute the tapes went up at Newbury the other day, I thought we were in trouble, because to me, he looked like he was even up over the first couple of fences. He was like wheel spinning on the ground. I think he'll be much happier on a better surface. Like, for example, like last year, he was just touch off in the Supreme. He won a punch down where the ground was probably on the lively side. Yeah, he's a proper horse, and I just think a fast run 2 miles stiff track at Cheltenham on good ground, I think we'll see the best of him. But like you said, let people say what they want. I just think he's a horse that he's learning his trade, like all of us. We all had to start somewhere, you know.
What do you think is Lulamba's biggest strengths heading to Cheltenham?
His ability to switch off, travel, switch off. He's a great temperament for it, and just natural ability. He finds life very easy in the mornings. He's a very fresh character. Yeah, so I just think natural ability is probably one of his main attributes.
Jerry, you were massively impressed with Haughty Calore. You've given Lulamba 4 stars, but Haughty Calore, 5-star rating for you.
Yeah, he's one of those horses, to be honest. I thought it was a very good decision by Rebecca Curtis and the team not to travel him over to Ireland when, you know, he carried top weight in the Welsh National. You know, he had a hard race, even though the ground wasn't desperate at Chepstow. You know, he was going to have to travel over to Ireland and then run on heavy ground around Leopardstown. I thought it was a very good bit of race planning and placing by Rebecca and her team. And I thought he was very impressive. To be honest, I'm not a big punter, but I did back this lad before the off, because he was 11 to 10 on before the off, and I thought he was a 1 to 2 shot, and I was very surprised he wasn't shorter than what he was. And I thought he was very impressive. He jumped, he travelled. He's a proper stayer. Sean Bowen, even from the back of the last, he pushed him out, but he didn't really get stuck into him. I think he's a very progressive horse, and a very kind of another smart staying chaser for the Curtis team.
Native River obviously won the Welsh National and went on to win the Gold Cup. I mean, it looks an open Gold Cup this year. Do you think getting an easier lead is important to this horse early doors?
Maybe so, yeah, maybe so. But I just like the fact, like when he won at Chepstow this year, it was a very untypical Welsh Grand National. You know, usually Welsh Grand National is a real slog on heavy ground, whereas he coped with good ground that day, because I was actually there that day and we did a couple of non-runners because the ground was actually a bit too lively. And then the fact he came out and won on heavy ground around Newbury in a grade 2, I just thought he's a very versatile horse. But I just think, back to what I said earlier about horses, you know, being novices in Lulamba and horses like that. Horses, they keep improving for years, especially with these chasers, these proper staying chasers. And I think Hoity Clores is a perfect example of a horse that's still improving, and he's open to more improvement.
Do you think he's a big player in the Gold Cup?
I suppose with my own hat on, I hope he doesn't win the Gold Cup, because I hope a certain other horse wins the Gold Cup. But I think he'll be in the shake-up, and I think turning for home, he will be thereabouts. I think one or two horses might come past him, but I wouldn't be backing against him too much, you know.
Going to touch briefly, Jerry, on some of the novice hurdlers that we saw over the course of the weekend. The first one being Sober Glory. Now, you've given this lad a 4-star rating. Strength of the race is one thing, Jerry, but I have to say I thought it was a really, really good performance from Sober Glory. 3 from unbeaten in his bumpers, of course. Won the listed bumper at Newbury last season, and 3 from 4 over hurdles. If you draw a line through the Sandown run, I mean, he has to be up there with the best of the novices, both sides of the water, does he?
Yeah, and I think it'll actually be just interesting tomorrow morning to see whether the English handicapper moves him or not. But on official ratings, he's still got a little bit to find on ratings with the likes of Old Park Star and horses like that. But like back to my previous point, he's improving. I just thought it was an interesting move by Philip Hobbs and Johnson White to give him another run in an ordinary novice hurdle with a double penalty, whatever he had, as opposed to kind of stepping him up in grade. But I suppose, like I said, the race was there. He's form around Newbury. Newbury's a brilliant track for getting experience and runs into horses. And I don't think he's a mudlark. I don't think he'll mind a bit of spring ground. He's a son of Mount Nelson, point-to-point winner. He'll stay. Yeah, he's a very likeable horse, and he's probably a double-figure price for the Supreme, and he's probably a good fun each-way bet. But yeah, I thought it was a good performance. And I just liked the way Harry Cobden, he set his stall out. He went a right gallop. He got a breather into him leaving the back, and up the straight. You thought he was vulnerable for a second, but like Harry was just, real typical Cobden ride. He was just saving, and then just asked him when he needed to and put the race to bed very quickly. And one thing I will say, the second horse is no mug whatsoever. Like, he won the 100 grand bumper at Newbury, the Goff's 100 grand bumper, and obviously he beat
Talk to talk that day. So that form is not to be sniffed at. And even, for example, the horse that finished third in Newbury the other day, he was well beaten, but he wasn't a bad horse either. So I don't think the form was that bad. But it was an interesting run, a bit of experience to run him there, as opposed to stepping him up in grade again, because obviously he did get found out at Sandown, but that was too bad to be true. He was beaten leaving the back straight that day. But no, very exciting horse, and like one that you'd love to be owning or training, I'd imagine. When you say interesting, in what respect? Are you thinking maybe they might consider handicaps?
No, because I think he's only had the 4 runs over hurdles. So like that is one thing that is kind of. So he's not qualified to run in a Corl or County hurdle. But I did speak to Johnson White after Newbury the other day, and he did say he was going to go for the Supreme. So he's not going down the handicapping thing. But just on that note, and it's like back to the Betfair or whatever the race was called from Saturday, that Tootie won. Like, before, that used to be a very good Supreme trial, or even Champion hurdle trial. For example, I remember like My 10 to Yours won it off a rating of 149. And he went on to finish second in the Supreme. Darlan won it, or he was going to win it one year, and he fell. Yeah. So, but nowadays, for a novice to run in the Betfair hurdle, you have to have 5 runs over hurdles by February, and it's very hard to do, and it's massively taken away from the race. Hence why the top rated horse today was only rated 138, and the field size was probably one of the smallest it's been in a while. So, and it's a massive prize pot. It's just one of those races that has become a small bit diluted over the last 3 years, I think,
I love the way he jumps, love the way he switches off. I love the way what he done from 50 yards to the line as well. When you thought maybe he might be tiring on that ground, you mentioned the second as well, the collateral form, albeit from a bumper at Newbury with Talk the Talk. So there's a little bit to consider there. I think, look, at 16 to 1, he could be. You mentioned he's not a mudlark, I get that, but I think if it did turn up softer, possibly even soft, heavy ground, potentially. I think we've already seen a heavy ground in the Supreme once in the last 10 years, but it's been softer heavy on 7 of the last 10 years when it comes to the Tuesday at Cheltenham on the hurdles course. So it is interesting. I mean, if it was soft ground, he could take a little bit of pegging. I mean, Old Park Star will come on. We might as well talk about him now very briefly. He is the 7 Barrows likely runner in the race, favourite for the contest at the moment. I mean, he looks a right one, doesn't he?
Yeah, very much so, David. He's And it's actually funny. He's kind of one of those horses. Obviously, he was very ready-made when he came to Seven Barrows. He was obviously formerly in Paul Nichols before being moved, but he was a very ready-made horse. But at the same time, if you told me at the start of the season that Old Park Star would be as short as what he is for the Supreme Hurdle, I would have laughed, really. You know, he's not flashy at home. He's a gorgeous horse. He's not flashy. He just does what he needs to. But like, there is a massive engine there, and whatever he does in the Supreme this year will be brilliant. But he's probably a 3-mile chaser of the future. He's a proper stayer of the future. He's got the class and the ability, natural ability, like I mentioned earlier, natural ability to win over 2 miles. And doing what he's doing. But yeah, he's a very exciting horse. And like I say, whatever he does for the Supreme this year will be brilliant. But his future is way, way ahead of him.
Looking at his racing style, would he be in the Altior or even Shishkin mould?
Yeah, probably. I'd say probably more the Shishkin mould, because like Altior, he was so fast. I know he stayed 2.5, but he was never going to go 3 miles, I suppose. Whereas this lad probably will end up 3 miles. Very like Shishkin, being kind of maybe King George / Denman Chase Gold Cup type of horse,
Wanted to mention one in Ireland, Zanouche, because we were just talking off air that Colin Murphy has a nice mare in his hands. He's done well with mares in the past, the likes of Valor La Vedette, obviously Impervious as well, won the Mare's Chase at the festival. And Zanouche, really progressive, 127 rated mare heading into the contest yesterday, the listed event at Navan. And I thought she was really, really impressive. And they've mentioned the Albert Bartlett being an option, the big Westerner mare second in the race last season. She'd be getting £7. It'd be interesting to see what the Irish handicapper, I suppose, when they reassess the ratings. But I think if she lined up, if it was soft ground, the potential to improve going up, Jerry, to 3 miles. I thought it was a really good performance at the weekend. 4.5-star rating for me.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree. I just love the way she quickened going to the last, and she hit the line very strong. And like you said, it's great to see Colin Murphy with another good mare, and obviously Brian Hayes. It's a big ride for him as well. And fair play, he gave her a lovely ride, and she's a filly that's still improving. She's a novice. I'd imagine she'd be going up in trip as opposed to running in the mare's novice, which seems to be a good race this year as well. But yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you. She's a filly that you'd be looking forward to if she does go to Cheltenham.
When we come back from this very brief ad break, I'm going to get a tracker horse from you, Jerry, and we might run through some of the, the team sheet for Seven Barrows heading into the Cheltenham Festival 2026.
McCafferty's traditional Irish bars are located across Ireland, the UK, Spain and the United Arab Emirates. McCafferty's bars provide the perfect backdrop and atmosphere to watch all horse racing and sports events, serving traditional Irish food and music played 7 days a week. Come to McCafferty's for the crack and stay for the experience. Check out mcCafferty'sbars.com.
Yeah, so welcome back to the show, and we're on to the tracker horse segment of the show. Jerry, over the last 7 days, what caught your eye, I suppose? Want to put in the tracker for us?
I suppose I was at Newbury on Saturday, and the listed bumper looked a very, very good race on paper. And the horse that won it, a son of Kingston Hill called Likeable Rogue, I think was his name, trained up the north of England, very small operation. He was a cheap purchase as a store. He probably did relish conditions on the day, but he was extremely impressive. I actually looked at him properly afterwards as well, just in case he was on the market or anything like that. But gorgeous big 16-2 horse. He probably did well to be a smart bumper horse, because I think he's going to be a real kind of chaser of the future. A lot of size and scope. And they were adamant he wasn't for sale anyway. Yeah, but Likeable Rogue, he was definitely an eye catcher for me at Newbury on Saturday.
Lots have been speaking about the Wall Park. He's been dropped the pound. Saratoga as well, an eye catcher maybe for Jacob McManus that didn't win over the weekend. But I thought better days ahead in the Boyne hurdle ran an absolute cracker to finish second. Really caught the eye. First run for quite some time. And interesting, Gordon Elliott speaking about the Irish National. He ran the race last season, Jerry, but I'd make him a big contender for that race once again. A light campaign, had an infection, Gordon mentioned. So he missed a couple of weeks' work, and obviously proved his well-being by running on in the Boyne hurdle at the weekend. So that's one for the tracker from my side, Jerry. And I thought he would be an ideal type for an Irish National, for a man that needs every little bit of prize money this side of the Irish Sea that he can get. I mean, what have you made of the Irish Traders Championship? It's getting really exciting now, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely, Barry. From being an English-based person, I love the way Gordon Elliott, he's really playing down his chances, saying, he's no chance really, he's no chance really. But in the back of his mind, obviously he'll be sending a strong team to Cheltenham Presby Park this year, but at the same time he is thinking what big prizes he can win in England, or in Ireland, sorry, between now and Punchestown, because we all know that he could go into Punchestown with a decent lead and Willie could claw it back very quickly. But at the same time, Willie's horses probably weren't firing as early as usual this year, and Gordon made hay. And massive respect to him. It was an unbelievable, how he's done so far in this season in Ireland is incredible. He's racked up an awful lot of prize money, and when you've Jack Kennedy riding for you and the team of people he has around him, you can see why they're going to give it a good go. But like I said, it'll be fascinating, and I think it probably will go right to the end. I don't know what they are in betting now, what the difference is between the two of them, between Willie and Gordon, but it's going to be fascinating, and it's great for racing, because we don't want this one trainer dominance in any country, in any industry or in any sport. We don't want that. So no, it's brilliant to see it, and fair play to Gordon and his team, and I hope to give it a good crack.
4 weeks away from Cheltenham, 7 Barrows, obviously a fantastic team once again going to the festival. And look, we touched on Lulamba and Old Park Star. I wanted to ask you about the main man, Constitution Hill, 9 years of age. Do you think there's any possibility we could still see him in a champion hurdle, Jerry?
Well, there's definitely a possibility, Barry. That's for sure. That is for sure. Obviously, he's, his career, I suppose his last 12, 18 months, I suppose he couldn't have written it really. He's, like I said, he just going back to natural ability again. I've probably never seen a horse been involved with a horse with as much natural ability, and he's a freak. He is a freak. What he does at home in the mornings, when you ask him, is incredible. I hope to God he lines up in the champion hurdle. The way things have worked out this year, especially, he's a very talented horse. He's going to have his run on the flat, but he's been doing loads of schooling. Everyone obviously was well documented. He came out of stalls and stuff like that, but he's been doing loads and loads of schooling. He'll probably even school the day before he runs on the flat, just to make sure to keep his mind intact. And Nicky Henderson and Michael Buckley, they just want the horse to go to the races, have a good experience running on the flat, and just go home in the horse box thinking that was a nice day out, as opposed to going back with a dizzy head like he has the last few times from a fall. But no, I think there's a big chance he'll run in the champion hurdle. I hope he does. And for me, if he stands up, which I think he's well capable of doing, he will take all the beating. Fascinating.
Active Innocence. He was really impressive in the Sydney Banks, I believe.
Yeah, very much so. And even I actually saw an interview there recently with Nicky recently. He kind of said at the start of the season, if you said that Active Innocence would be going 2.5 and Old Park Star would have been going 2 miles, he would have questioned it. But it's just the way it has happened. Like obviously one owner, so you naturally want to split them up, and obviously him winning the Sydney Banks today proved that he stays, even though Cheltenham's going to be more of a test of stamina. I wouldn't worry about that. He jumps, he travels, and he stays, and he's definitely a horse that he's got a right chance. To be honest, now I thought before that, I think a few people asked me for an each way kind of tip a few weeks ago, and I told them to back him each way in the Turners, because I thought if he wins the Sydney Banks, he'll be a lot shorter, but I think he was 20-1 at the time. But yeah, I think he's got a great chance. Obviously, Paul Nicholls has got the favourite or thereabouts at the moment with no drama this end. But yeah, I know it's going to be a very good race again, and I think the novice hurdles this year are very strong.
At the start of the season, if you were to ask the team at 7 Barrows, Active Innocence, would he be the 2 miler and Old Park Star be the 2.5 miler? Do you think that would be the way that the team would have been leading? Like, is it funny the way it's worked out?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I know 100%. Like at the start of the season, we would have probably flip-flopped them just on their homework. But at the end of the day, like you said, there's no prize money at home, and no, there's, like you said, Old Park Star. You could run Old Park Star over 2.5 this year if you wanted to. He'd stay at no prodder, but he's got the natural speed to be a 2 miler, and like the famous saying, like to win a Supreme, you need to stay as well. And I think he's well capable of going very close in the race.
Ante-Post King, I mean, obviously Mashanta was really impressive getting weight in the cleave, but Ante-Post King, thoughts on maybe his claims for a stairs?
Yeah, same thing again. If you said to me at the start of the season he would be favourite or in the top 3 in the betting for the World Hurdle or the Stairs Hurdle this year, I probably would have laughed. But same thing again, young horse, improving, still on the improve.
And yeah, like I still think it was a very good run on trials day. He got found out because he was with the penalty, and just on that ground, he jumped, he travelled, travelled into the race lovely, did everything nicely. And Mashan too, who's another young improving horse, he won. But I think he could turn the tables with that horse in March, in 4 weeks' time, on a bit of nicer ground. He still needs to see out the 3 miles properly up the hill, but I don't think that's going to be a problem. But yeah, I think in a not a wide open division, because we got all the proper horses like Tiupu and all those good horses top of the market. But yeah, he's one now that I think don't judge him on his last run. Like I said, it was trials day. The name is in the, it's a trial. So yeah, no, perfect. I think he'll run a big race in 4 weeks' time.
Would you put anyone off that's watching the show? Jericho, the Repide for the Kimure. Would you put anyone off that?
Well, I see he's been a bit of a Twitter sensation there in the last week as well when it comes to the handicappering and stuff like that. And he obviously got dropped £3 or whatever like that. But I suppose, to be honest, when you look at some of his form, he could have actually been dropped a few more pounds. But yeah, I think he'll go for that race. And, he still needs to go and do it. Do you know what I mean? Over fences. He's still, it's I don't think it's just a matter of turning up, jumping around 18 fences, whatever it is, and just striding on up the home straight. He still has to go and do it. And but the same thing again, I think he's been probably laid out for this race for a while, and I'd imagine he'll probably have a very good amateur on his back as well, which will help.
John Bunn, this weekend upcoming, obviously. Nicky talking about the Ascot Chase. Are we hoping we win here and Factor File is supplemented for the Gold Cup?
Yeah, well, the plan is to run him at the weekend anyway. I haven't had a quick look at the entries now yet, but he likes the track. He won't mind the ground. I suppose your only kind of worry is that it's going to be a bit close to Cheltenham, where he'd be intended runner as well. And yeah, you'd imagine Factor File would probably have to go Gold Cup, especially after his performance at Christmas. I don't think you worry about stamina with him. And yeah, no, that was a different horse to what turned up at Kempton and in the King George.
Two more finally to mention from the Seven Barrows team. Charisma, she's a mare. She rated 127. Could we see her at Cheltenham? Is she potentially on a favourable mark for a mare?
Yeah, I think she could be. I think initially the plan was to go for the race just gone at Newbury, the Betfair Hurdle, but she just had a little cut or something small, so she just missed a week. But it'll be interesting. I suppose she is still eligible for the Mayor's Novice this year, isn't she? Yeah, she is. Or at the same time, she need one more run to qualify for a handicap mark to run. Well, she has a handicap mark, but a qualifying run for one of the handicaps, which could see her probably go in the county or something like that, But she's an exciting filly. She's tricky. She's not straightforward. She's keen. She's got, she likes to get on with it. And as we saw at Hunting the last day, sometimes if she gets in a bit of a tiz, she's not the best of jumpers.
And Jerry, a couple of horses that you've played a big part in purchasing, obviously, Django Bay, Sergino. We'll start with Sergino. First of all, how's his well-being?
Yeah, he's okay, Barry. Nicky and Nico actually went to see him at the vets. He got moved to different vets closer to home on Saturday. Obviously, the pelvis fracture is actually okay. It's stable. That's not the end of the world. It's just he did get a nasty infection in his near hind, which he's on antibiotics for and stuff like that. And they just have to make sure you can kill the infection and just try keep it kind of as local as possible to where the area is. But yeah, like I said, it's a real shame when you've got the 6-4. Well, he was a 6-4 favourite for the Champion Hurdle. When you've got him in a stable and he can't go anywhere, it's very annoying. But that's horses, isn't it? They're not machines. They do get injured. They're any athletes. They do get injured. Unfortunately, it always seems to happen to the real nice ones. But yeah, no. Hopefully everything goes well, and you just never know. Hopefully he's a horse that we might see back on the track at some stage, but we need to get him right first,
And to have played a part in purchasing one of the fancied runners for the Cheltenham Festival Gold Cup. I mean, that's from a bloodstock perspective, from a racing perspective. I mean, that's what dreams are made of. Django Bay, a massive player.
Yeah, definitely. He obviously, like everyone's talked about, the King George was a brilliant race. Obviously, Forden jumping the last, and you could only, from first to fourth, there was only a head or whatever it was. He put him in a good performance. I just think, Nico came in off in the last day, and the first thing he said is that he needs a hill. So I think we'll see a proper test of stamina in the Gold Cup this year, and I think he'll relish the extra 2 furlongs as well. But yeah, they're the horses you want to be associated with. You want to be going to the big days involved with those types of horses. And he was a point-to-point graduate and stuff like that. And he's a very exciting horse. And same thing again. He was obviously meant to run the other day against Haughty Clores, but just instead he's a horse that we're going to go to Cheltenham fresh with. He's easy enough to get fit at home, and he gives himself a very hard race. So he would have been quiet for a week if we'd ran him on Saturday, and it might have been just a bit close to Cheltenham. But no, he'll go there in good form. And come Friday, I don't know what sort of form we'll be in at that stage, but hopefully he can fly the flag for us on Friday afternoon. That's for sure, because he's a star.
And came from obviously the McGrath Academy, and Mick, one of the great characters based in County Wexford. After his point-to-point, and I mean, from what you saw, is this a horse that you always believed was potentially a Gold Cup horse?
Probably, I suppose the honest answer is probably no, Barry, because he showed enough when we first got him after buying him from the sales. We brought him home, and he showed a lot of speed, natural speed and stuff like that. We probably thought he's a real kind of 2-miler, but then at the same time we never actually ran him in a bumper, but that was probably just circumstantial to what time of the season we got going. But he did start off over 2 miles over hurdles, and he literally bolted around Ascot one day and he still won. But yeah, it's just showed natural ability from day one when we had him. Very generous with his. Every morning he'll come out, and he won't just do what he needs to. He'll give you a bit more. Hence why sometimes he can be a bit hard on himself. Real generous with his energy. Tries twice as hard every day, if you know what I mean. But yeah, he's just like I said, same thing again. He's a lot of ability, not a natural ability. And to be fair, when you buy a horse for that, you hope they might end up being it's like anything. You hope they go win a bumper, win a novice hurdle, and they're a nice Saturday horse. But when they turn out to be Gold Cup contenders, it's very special. And and a great owner as well. He's a good character. Mick Goff is a great character as well, and the owner who owns this horse now, Tony Barney, is a probably even bigger character.
And just briefly on his Arkle win, I mean, when he jumped the last, I mean, we talk about Champ and the RSA. I mean, talk about thrilling finishes. I mean, you must have ridden the finish, did you yourself in the stands?
Well, I probably didn't, Barry, because I was actually in the parade ring, watched with the owners and stuff in the parade ring. But to be honest, I'd actually turned around and walked away practically, because I was thinking, what in the name of God did we run this horse in the Arkle for? What were we thinking? Well, obviously, there's no 2.5 novice at Cheltenham anymore, grade 1. And obviously, that would have been his perfect race. And I was thinking, why didn't we run him over 3 miles? I turned my back. I was nearly walking back down to the owners and trainers to go get a drink. And all of a sudden, you hear the Django Bay is making ground. And even at the last, you still didn't think he's going to get up and win, but he's a proper stayer, and he loved the hill, and I think he'll love it, and in 4 weeks' time as well.
The extra 2 furlongs, do you think that's going to really play to his strengths?
Yeah, whether it plays to his strengths or not, but I don't think he's going to be a hindrance whatsoever. Because, like I said, he's not a slow horse. I don't think any slow horse wins an Arkle, but he's got that kind of. It's a great thing to have, that kind of blend of speed and stamina, which a lot of horses don't have. The other are kind of one or the other, but he's got a bit of both, and a lot of class, and just a real nice horse and great horse to be associated with.
Just finally, Jerry, before we do come on to our selections for the Cheltenham Festival, a couple of other horses that could line up that you played a part in purchasing: Taurus Bay for Ben Pauling and Vanderpool.
Yeah, Taurus Bay, he actually won his point-to-point at Coma, which was actually on yesterday, and I actually went there yesterday as well, just because I always like to, where you've been lucky from buying horses from, whether it's from trainers or tracks, I like to kind of, do the same thing if you can. But yeah, he's a very exciting horse for Harry Redknapp and a few friends. He just got touched off in the grade 2 at Cheltenham the last day. Before that, he was unbeaten over hurdles. Very exciting horse. He'll probably line up in the Turners. He'll probably go 2.5 again. He's going to be a lovely chaser for the future. Same thing now again. He probably has plenty of speed and stamina. But he's a very exciting horse, and whatever he does this year is a bonus. And yeah, Vanderpool, he's a little bit, not a dark horse, but he's a horse now I'll be looking forward to. He runs the Grand Annual. He's won his last three chases now, I think. I bought him from the Goff sale at Newbury. He's a rapidly improving horse, especially over fences. And after winning at Sandown the last day, Ben and his team decided to put him away, protect his handicap mark, and go straight to Cheltenham fresh for the Grand Annual.
Best of luck. After this quick ad break, your selection and my selection, Jerry, for episode 8 of the Road to Cheltenham Challenge, series number 6. And for viewers watching, just a quick update as well. To put your selections in the comment section down below for episode number 8. Don't forget, of course, on the eve of the Cheltenham Festival, we will be, of course, picking out a winner of the healthiest Whoever has the healthiest portfolio heading into the festival itself will be crowned the winner and a trip VIP to the Boylesports Irish Grand National. After this quick ad break, our selections for episode number 8 of the challenge.
Now boarding the train of thought.
Calling out. Injury Lane. Statminster. Opinion Circus. Last Chance Cross. And Decision Time.
Barry.
Back yourself. Boylesports.
Midland Travel in Tullamore have been providing a full range of horse racing packages for over 20 years, catering for all types of budgets. And they're off. Stephen and the team at Midland Travel can help you realise your sporting travel dreams. Midland Travel are the only company in Ireland that runs coach and ferry packages from both Manchester United and Liverpool. Check out midlandtravel.ie or contact 057 932 6777 for more information.
Yes, and of course, if you are still looking to book your trip to the Cheltenham Festival, Steve and the team at St Midland Travel will be delighted to have a conversation with you. Plenty of packages, and the leading provider for packages to the Cheltenham and Aintree Festival from Ireland. And of course, if you're a Manchester United fan, which I am, Jerry, at the moment, going well, that man might get the haircuts tomorrow night when they take on West Ham. But of course, if you're a United or Liverpool fan as well, Stephen and the team at Midland Travel would be delighted to help you to get over and see your team. Right. Picks for episode number 8, Jerry. I think it's pretty simple for yourself. You're going with the Gold Cup, aren't you? You're going with Django Bay.
Yeah, I have to stay loyal to the team. Django Bay definitely for the Gold Cup. Yeah, like I said, he's got a brilliant owner. He's a very good, talented horse. He's close to my heart, and he's a horse that I'll be roaring home hopefully on the Friday at the Cheltenham Festival this year. Just
on the race itself, Jerry, quickly, what's obviously it's competitive this year, but what do you think is the biggest danger to him at the moment? If you had to nail down the biggest danger, what would you say it is?
Well, I think Factor 5 probably caught us all in the hop a small bit of not at Christmas at the DRF. I don't think anyone envisaged that sort of performance. That was just incredible. It was just a different horse, and they rode him like, you know, they weren't worried about his stamina on that ground. They rode him positively. I thought Mark gave him an incredible ride. He just jumped from fence to fence. He was taking him back nearly. He was just trying to save energy. He was very impressive, and obviously he'll have to be supplemented, but they did it last year, and I'd imagine they'll be doing it this year. I'd be very, very slow to write off Galloping the Champ. I just think he's still a proper horse. He still ran a blinder for me at Leopardstown the last day. And as we know, he comes up the hill. Probably didn't turn up on the day last year. I don't think that was anything to do with age or anything like that. I think you discard him at your pearl. I think he's a proper horse, and I don't think he's finished with it yet. But yeah, no, it's a proper race this year, and it's probably maybe the fact that it's wide open is probably a good thing, because it's not wide open because there's a lot of ordinary horses in there. They just think that there's a lot of good horses, and maybe none of them have really stood out just yet. Obviously, Jukebox Man for Ben Pauling, he's a good horse too. He's going there with a good chance, and then thrown in there as well. It'll be interesting whether Willie and them send Rich Ritchie's horse,
Gaelic Warrior,
which is Gaelic Warrior. So no, it's going to be fascinating.
Well, for what it's worth, Jerry, I'm actually, at this point in time, if the Gold Cup was tomorrow, I'd be with Django Bay. I think I'm leaning towards, haven't nailed my colours to the mast just yet in the Gold Cup. But for anyone watching, Jerry, 11-2, boosted out from 9-2. You can evade it up by clicking the link in the podcast description. Thanks to Boylesports, who've put that forward as a boost. And so there we are. My selection, Jerry, I'm going to stick with Sober Glory. The very first selection on the series was Sober Glory for the Turners. Got the race wrong. Now it looks like he's going for the Supreme. So I'm going to have to stick with him. I was really impressed. Look, I know it's kind of been a low-key races, if you like. Obviously, a double penalty at the weekend. I thought it was really good, obviously, on the clock. What he done in the middle part of the race is jumping. The way this horse switches off, and particularly what he done from the back of the last 27 lengths. Look, you might argue, Jerry, that we might have had exaggerated winning distances at Newbury at the weekend, but he couldn't have been more impressive. To my eye, I think if it turned up on the softer side on the Tuesday at Cheltenham, I think he'd have a massive, massive chance. And really respect Old Park Star. Look, when he won at Cheltenham, Just a question on Old Park Star, Jerry. What if the ground did turn up soft? All his form on a little bit of nicer ground. Would the ground on the would he like it a little bit nicer, do you think, or would soft ground be an issue?
But you know, I actually, believe it or not, I actually think if the ground came up slow, I don't think it would hinder him whatsoever. Because I just think, you know, like I said earlier, he's going to be a horse that goes up and trip probably in time. And if it is a bit more of a test of stamina, that might even play into his strengths even more. Like you said, when you see him physically, you look at him, you think, geez, he probably needs soft ground because he's such a big tank of a horse. But no, I don't think that's going to hinder him whatsoever. You know, typically Nicky's like a bit of nicer ground. They're trained on easy surfaces and stuff like that, but I don't think that would hinder him whatsoever, and it might even play to his strengths. No, I don't like I said, because like I said, he could be a horse that if you ran over two, and if you ran more in the turners this year, he'd stay that trip no problem whatsoever. So no, I don't think he's not ground dependent. I just think he's just very, very good.
16-1 boosted out to 14-1 Sober Glory. If you fancy that one each way, I just think he's a big player in the race. I think he'll hit the frame. Respect the favoured. But Al Kairos and Talk the Talk. Look, Willie Mullins not this season. Jerry doesn't appear to have an obvious one for the Supreme. And I just think I could see Sober Glory starting single figures. I just think it's a price thing. I thought he was really good at the weekend. Like his profile, like the way he jumps, like his mind as well. I like what he's done. So, yeah, I'm going to stick with him. And this has been this is the portfolio prior to today's show, Jerry. Sober Glory, as you can see, 25-1 for the Turners. We're going to put him in again, this time for the Supreme. Yes, and let us know your latest pick for the Road to Cheltenham Challenge in the comment section down below. Jerry, fascinating having you on the show. Thanks very much for all your insight. And 7 Barrows. What a team heading to the festival this year. But I think the big one for you, very best of luck. You've had a big part, obviously, in the purchase of Django Bay. And the very best of luck to yourself for the festival and all the team.
Thanks, Barry. Thank you for having me.
From Dundalk to Longchamp, from the Galway races to the Breeders' Cup, Shamrock Thoroughbreds recently celebrated their 100th winner, and Ireland's leading racehorse syndicate has taken owners all over the world. Shamrock Thoroughbreds founder Stephen Thorne remarkably won the Winter Trainers' Championship at Dundalk during his first season as a racehorse trainer. To experience success with Shamrock Thoroughbreds and Stephen Thorne Racing, check out shamrockthoroughbreds.com.